Hello and welcome. Tonight on the show, us trio of dudes are trying out a quartet of hummus if you wish. We are so excited to have you. This is Soft Spoken.
And we're back. We are Soft Spoken. We're the podcast detailing your favorite sauces, dips, and condiments. My name's Adam, and I'll be your host. And I'm joined here this week by my co-host, Tori.
Hi, hello. And how are you? I think I did that gag before, but what the hell, I'll do it again. It's been a long time. Gotta recycle once in a while. And speaking of recycling, to my right, there's an active farter in the building, and his name is E. He's a co-host and friend. Welcome, E.
Fart E.
Recycle. I thought you were going to say I was recycling when you guys got here. I was putting away all my recyclables.
You do that as well.
I do.
You are an avid recycler.
Despite the fact that NPR says you're wasting your time.
Wasting my time. In fact, I passed a billboard on my way back from Indiana that said recycling plastic is false, and learn why on grove.com.
Well, that's the thing. So generally speaking, I think if you had to look at NPR and assume that they had a tilt one way or the other politically, I think most people would assume that they lean left. So for them to come out and basically very publicly advocate against recycling plastic because it's not effective, it's not helping anything. It's actually just contributing to the massive piles of plastic in the Pacific Ocean, like the plastic islands out there.
Yeah.
So for them to come out against a policy which I think is generally perceived as being more liberal leaning, recycling, I think to me that tells me that if they're being nothing but objective, they're being very unbiased in that opinion. So to me that was all I needed to be, as someone who really didn't recycle to begin with, to be that's not worth my while. Now aluminum cans, okay, there you have that, and you actually get a bit of money for those.
And glass is actually way more recyclable than plastic.
A lot of materials, pretty much all materials are more recyclable than plastic.
Yeah, for sure.
Or compostable or biodegradable. So,
but this is not a podcast about recycling.
Mother Earth thanks you, E.
Now it's time to catch up with the host.
Time to catch up.
Nice.
E, how was your week this week? You just got back from a little road trip.
I did. It was really, it was nice. I made great time. Gosh, I flew. I think I got to Indiana, just across the Ohio-Indiana border there into Indiana.
You're such a 55-year-old man.
I was so excited about my
great time.
Great time, yeah. I did it in 3 hours and 50
No man
minutes.
under 40 has ever said those words.
Except for me. Yeah, I saw one cop the whole way. It was crazy.
It's not surprising to me that you made great time because you were probably going 98 miles an hour.
Yeah, dude, you fly.
The governor in your Versa note maxes out at, so.
I'll say, I didn't go quite that fast. There was one point. Okay, that's not true. There was one point where I think I was going 91. But I cut it back then. I noticed it and I was like, whoa, gotta slow up.
If anything happens to your car, because you have such a small little car, if anything were to happen, if one of your 14-inch tires were to blow when you're going that speed, which I'm sure that they're not rated for that speed to begin with.
It'd be instant death. Yes.
Yeah, you would tumble until your car exploded.
I don't doubt it. I got gas for $4.30. I was very happy about that.
Oh, that's disturbing. That's a good price.
Right? That is disturbing these days.
Oh, dear. Cool.
What else was exciting? I went. My goal for going out to Indiana was to visit with family. My niece's birthday is July 4th, so I was there for her birthday and mainly just hung out with my brother's family. Played a lot of board games. Lots of board games.
You snuck this up on us. I know. We last recorded on a Thursday. We're recording considerably less far in advance than we normally do because we're recording on a Saturday. Generally, for the astute listeners, I start editing on Saturday and I usually finish it up on Sunday. And we're actually recording now at 4 o'clock on a Saturday. And so I'm going to be in a bit of a rush to get done editing because last week we came and left on Thursday. And then was it Friday?
I don't even know.
I think it was Friday. We went out to dinner at Bonefish Grill and you dropped the bomb on us that
Oh, yeah.
you are going to be gone for the entirety of the next week.
I ruined your whole dinner. That's right. How could I forget?
That's right.
Yeah, without any opportunity for me to like record a thing saying like, hey, we're going to take a break for 4th of July week, which we could have easily done. You're like, no, I'll wait until Friday, and then they'll tell that. I mean, you said, well, you guys could still record if you wanted to, and then not missing the fact that we record at your house, Eric. So yes, I was a trifle annoyed, to say the least. We're recording here now on Saturday, and it's all fine and dandy, so
We're making it work.
making it work.
Hell yeah. Let's see, that's how we do it around here.
That's how
We
Eric
see
does it.
solutions. We don't see problems.
Oh, I definitely see problems, but what about you, Tori? What did you get up to this week?
I ordered some new frames, some new peepers for I ordered a new face, essentially.
Wow.
Yeah, from the eye doctor. My prescription got better.
Hey, that's
Well,
great.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Oh my God.
How does that work?
I don't know. My right eye got better, left eye stayed the same, reading's the same.
I whenever something like that happens, I always wonder if like they got your prescription a little bit wrong the last time you got them. You know what I mean?
Right? I wondered that too. I remember the last time, not the last time, 2 times ago, my prescription had gotten better. And I asked the doctor, I said, that seems strange. They said, well, they said, have you been wearing contacts? I said, yeah, it was, because at the time it was. They said, people with contacts tend to see an improvement in their vision, which I thought was very interesting.
They do call them corrective lenses, although I don't think that has anything to do with correcting your vision. But I actually try to do the opposite sometimes. I actually try to take my glasses off and like train my eyes, try to get them to focus on things without my glasses on.
Oh, wow.
Maybe that's making them worse. I don't know.
I don't know. But yeah, I was stoked to hear that. I got a new pair of frames, and my tomato plants are doing exceptionally well.
Oh, nice.
I was very excited to see that at least 3 of the plants, the ones I got a good eye on, are starting to have buds. So we're going to have some fruit right around the bend here. So we're excited about that, my man.
I don't know if I mentioned this, but I'm growing a small garden this year, and I grew some pumpkins out in my yard where I thought for sure the second they sprouted they would be eaten by wild animals, but they haven't been. They continue to grow, and I think at this point they're probably a little bit too big and too tough for the deer to want them, but I was surprised that they're still alive. But I'm also growing some peas, and I'm also growing some cucumbers, and I'm also growing some tomatoes, and I was only intending to grow 2 tomato plants. However, I used the same dirt that I used last year, and I know I had quite a few tomatoes that were on the vine too long and basically burst and fell on the ground and rotted. And they appear to have reemerged as volunteer tomatoes, so now like half my garden is tomato plant, which
Love it.
I'm curious to see how they grow, because as anyone that's gardened for years in a row knows that like things that come from seeds of the previous year's plants are not necessarily the same thing as what was grown that produced those seeds. So, I mean, it'll be the same type of fruit. Obviously, it's not going to be a different plant, but you might get like a different style of tomato. Like you might get cherry tomatoes from a tomato that was a beefsteak last year.
A better boy.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's usually quite that dramatic of a change, but the taste and the coloration and stuff like that and the size can definitely change, especially with peppers. We've talked about that before too, where if they cross-pollinate and then you plant the seeds of the cross-pollinated plants, the next year you can get something like a spicy bell pepper or a mild, serrano.
Right.
So very interesting. But I do have a little bit of a correction. It's time for a soft-spoken rewind.
Oh, man.
So I did a little bit of research last week when we were talking about the Vienna beef Chicago dog kit. One of the things I was very interested to find out was some more information on the sport peppers. And a couple of things I looked up is that sport peppers are essentially Tabasco peppers. Apparently there was some sort of like fungal infection that was affecting Tabasco peppers, so they made a variant of them which was more resistant to that. And I read on Quora, which is essentially the modern evolution of Yahoo Answers, so take it with a hefty pinch of salt. But I read that sport is a botanical term that basically means like a variant or a mutant. So apparently sport pepper is like a sport Tabasco pepper, which just means like Tabasco variant. So
that's why they're freakishly large.
Has nothing to do with baseball.
Well, the other yeah, exactly, which I thought for sure it did, because I did also find on here that these Chicago dogs are they were propagated heavily through baseball games. So that makes perfect sense. But calling them a sport, I don't know why that stuck. Maybe just because it sounded cool. I don't know why there aren't other sport-type peppers. But another thing I read that was interesting to me was that the sport peppers that they serve are supposed to never be longer than 1.5 inches in length.
Oh.
Which the ones we had certainly were.
Certainly.
So it actually sounds like, to me, the Tabasco peppers that I usually grow and harvest are about an inch in length. That actually sounds more in line with what I was reading about sport peppers. And I still wasn't quite totally convinced that there was a meaningful difference. Because I think the flavor is very much the same. And I do think that, like, when you get those bigger ones, they do get a little woody. They don't taste as good. That
woody
was my
and seedy, I think we determined.
Yeah, the seeds get big. The pepper gets kind of tough. So, to me personally, I'm going to stick to that and basically say that I like mine better. But I did also find out that Vienna beef is a big deal. Apparently, they are like one of the two major beef hot dog suppliers in Chicago.
Wow. They are the sausage kings of Chicago.
They are the sausage kings of Chicago.
Wow.
Yes, we got
good on them.
like the OG big deal kit. We bought the right one.
Well, that's good.
Nice.
So I feel a little bit better to say that we got closer to authenticity, at least.
Okay.
Probably still fell a little bit. Well, we didn't have half the ingredients, so we definitely fell a little bit short. But yeah, I was interested to learn that. And the one last little correction I had was that, Eric, you made a statement last week when
here we go.
This should be fun.
Last week I asked you to make a parable, and you did. You made a parable that was adequate to what I had originally asked 2 episodes ago.
Right.
And then you made a statement that you said you didn't know if that was a parable or a fable. And I said that it was in fact a parable, and that a fable was just a tale. And I actually went and looked up the definition, and I was actually slightly wrong.
Oh, write it down.
Apparently, fables and parables are basically the same thing. They're basically like little cute stories with some sort of a meaning in them, you know. And apparently, generally speaking, fables tend to feature animals. Parables tend to feature humans. But other than that, they're essentially synonymous. So
there you go.
I did think that was interesting. A little bit, I learned something there. A little correction for myself for once. But yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting to learn that. So that's all.
Very good.
One other little brief thing we talked about last week with the Vienna beef, one of the other products that they make is a giardiniera. And for the listeners that don't know, a giardiniera is essentially like a mix of pickled vegetables in a jar. And usually they have a little bit of heat to them and a lot, other than that, just a shitload of vinegar. So Vienna beef sells one. Tori, you made a comment that you would not want to try that based on the sport pepper tasting.
That's correct.
Which I think is fair. And so I actually wanted to bring over some giardiniera this week to try, and I brought Bellevue brand giardiniera, and this is just their fancy, mild, mixed giardiniera. And I had to look online to see if I was pronouncing giardiniera correctly, which was interesting in and of itself because I looked online and I found one thing that said it was pronounced gardenia. And then
That's
I found
like a plant.
I know, which I was like, that's not correct. And then I found another YouTube video which said it closer to giardiniera. And then I finally just did the Google, giardiniera defined, where it gives you a little vocal thing you can click on to hear it said. And it did clearly say giardiniera. So that was at least accurate. But we don't need to do a whole
props
thing
to
on
Google,
this.
I guess. Or
well, I mean, I would expect Google to be correct. They have sentient AI after all.
Already. I didn't know that.
No, it's a hot controversy right now about an engineer who worked there was claiming that one of their AIs had become sentient, and he was posting somewhat edited snippets of conversations with it to prove that it was sentient. So, and there's hot debate about what his actual motives were with that whole debacle. So
bizarre. All right.
I read the transcripts. They were edited, and I still wasn't fully convinced. There were some interesting tidbits. I think it was worth a read, but not totally convinced. So, although he did also say that, because he was asking it to prove that it was sentient, and it will also prove that it is not sentient, to be fair, because it does what you ask it to do like a computer. So, which makes sense. But I just want to get a little bit of a, this particular giardiniera looks like celery, carrots, cauliflower, peppers. Anything else am I missing there, Eric? I think that's about it.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I think you nailed it.
This is a mild one. I just wanted you to try a little taste, Tori. Spoiler alert, I think you accurately predicted your enjoyment of it.
Yeah, boy, this is going to be a real ringer for me tonight. It's like someone went to a list of everything that I hate and got everything on the list. So it should be a good one tonight.
But
a fun one.
But I think it's interesting that because you do like salt and you do like vinegar, correct?
I do.
Which I think are the primary flavors in Jardiniere. I don't know. What do you think about it, Eric? Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, it's just, like you said, it's very vinegary and you need a little crunch, a little taste of the original vegetable that was once, before it became pickled. And I quite like them, personally. I think I love the cauliflower.
This is not my favorite brand, and I do think I prefer just the cauliflower. The Giant Eagle Olive Bar, as I've mentioned, used to have the bomb-ass best pickled hot mustard flavored cauliflower, which was phenomenal. And this I like less, but it's still pretty good, and I find it to be a nice little summer treat. So, a low-calorie summer treat, particularly.
Have you ever seen a variety that has hot peppers in the mix?
Yeah, if this was a mild one, if you get the hot one, it does have hot peppers in it.
Yuck.
Oh, okay.
So, makes it even spicier, Tor.
Ew.
But now that was just a little aside. Now that we're done with that, Eric, it was your week to bring a condiment for us. So why don't you go ahead and lead us off with what you brought for us?
Sure. In typical E fashion, I can't follow directions worth shit. So,
Wait, what do you mean you can't follow directions?
I brought 4 condiments, or 4 different versions of the same thing.
Well, that was not following directions. You're just making things harder than it had to be.
Boy, imagine that.
Eric, do that? Never.
Okay, like, here's something that Tori hates. Instead of making him try 1, I'll make him try 4.
There 4. You go. Perfect.
I just really wanted him to be sure that he didn't like it. So
4 times over.
I bought a hummus quartet. It comes with a roasted red pepper hummus, a roasted garlic hummus, a cilantro jalapeno hummus, and a classic hummus. So, yeah. And the brand is Park Street Deli, which I purchased this at Aldi's.
Very good. And I recognize
Aldi. Right. You get it right.
I recognize this immediately as an Aldi product just based on the packaging. And Aldi often will kind of like hide whoever the manufacturer is. I think just because they don't want to like brand confusion or something like that. Because we had to kind of look to find who the actual like manufacturer was on this.
A little bit.
So, but yeah, I would say, Tori, do you want to go ahead and lead us off with the visual description of the outside of the container that we're going to be looking at here tonight?
What we have here in front of us is a plastic tub. It's maybe about 6 or 7 inches in diameter, maybe. And it is cut off into 4 compartments, if you will, quadrants, if you wish. And it had the sticker on top of it's painfully off center. It's difficult to look at. But it also is separated into 4 parts, one of which being yellow, of course, the classic. We have red, going clockwise now, red, roasted red pepper. Roasted garlic is represented in purple. And finally, green, obviously, cilantro, jalapeno. All in a tub that I would think would be very suitable just to grab and go maybe to the next office party. If you like hummus, which I don't, but if you like hummus, you certainly could do something like that. And I think that in a tub like that would be very appropriate.
I think we mentioned this before on the show. I think Aldi is almost underrated for party shopping. I think they're one of the best places to go and get like food for a party if you want to assemble like a little charcuterie board or something like that. Like they've got good, inexpensive, well-produced, high-quality meats and cheeses and things like that you could easily put on a tray and look like you spent way more money on it than you actually did.
Crackers, their bread selection even.
Yeah, they're
decent.
And then stuff like this, too, which, again, like you said, Tori, very accurately, you pop the lid off. And as the saying goes, once you pop, the fun don't stop.
That's right.
Maybe not your fun, but for those of us that like hummus.
Yeah, for those of you who like chickpeas in general, yeah, I mean, my only bitch, I guess, would be once you take the lid off, there's no indication. So if you were at that party, I mean, the color of the hummus obviously gives it away. I'm sure we'll get into that, but I don't know. If you were a hummus novice, you may struggle with that.
Yeah, I think you would have to like take the lid off, and you wouldn't be able to sit it on top of the lid, but maybe you could like sit the lid next to it, and keep it in the same alignment, so people could accurately tell what they're getting. Although for me personally, as someone that likes hummus, I don't really give a shit which one I get that much.
Is that so? Okay.
They all taste kind of similar enough to me that I would pretty much eat any of them. So
really, well, that's interesting.
I think I was trying to think about this. If I was having something a food that I would put hummus on, I think that I would be happy to put any of these on. Maybe one less than the others, but any of the other 3, I'm totally indifferent as to which one I would put on.
I suppose that's fair to say. I'd have to agree. Yeah.
Well, I'll do a little bit of a visual description of the inside of the container that we're looking at here now, and I'll try to go in the same order that it is on the box. So I'll start off with the roasted red pepper hummus, which is, for the listeners that don't know, hummus is essentially just blended chickpeas with like olive oil and tahini or something like that in it. So that is essentially what it looks like. It forms like a medium density paste that I think could be, probably accurately compared to like a lightweight spackling maybe. And it sticks to the plate. Like you can turn it fully upside down. It definitely sticks. It doesn't run at all. Sometimes you'll see it at a restaurant served with like a drizzle of oil over top. And that's usually the only runny part. Other than that, it is pretty firm. I would say it's almost akin to like if you made yogurt out of chickpeas. It's kind of roughly that same consistency. Maybe.
Okay.
But maybe a little bit more chunky, especially depending on what's mixed into it, which takes us into the roasted red pepper, which is the orange color that I'm a fan of, that pleasing orange color. And you can see the orange coloring, but you can also see some of the little whiter light chunks where the chickpea isn't totally pureed. And in addition to that, you can also see some darker red chunk, which is presumably the roasted red pepper. Moving on to the roasted garlic, it almost has a faintly green color to it compared to the original, which is the one with the without the addition of other flavor added. And I think it's interesting that they chose purple to represent the garlic. It has a strange choice, but other than that, it has a very like creamy, like I said, very subtly light green tan. It's almost like a khaki color, I would say. Same thing, like a very pureed baby food type texture. You can see some minuscule little white chunks in there of chickpea. Other than that, very homogeneous. Moving on to the cilantro jalapeno, this one I think has the most like variation in color in it. And it's got, clearly the lighter green chunks in it. It's got a medium green color throughout. And then it's got a pretty hefty amount of darker green chunk in it, which I presume to be the cilantro. That's one, I think that, I'm glad they arranged them in this order because the interesting textured / colored ones next to each other rather than across from each other. I like the way they presented this better.
I think it helps to identify which is classic and which is the roasted as well.
Yeah. And then, there you go, E.
Last but not, maybe it discourages people from mixing spoons, which would make someone like me very unhappy.
Yeah, mixing your flavored hummuses would be strange, I think.
And then lastly, moving on to the original. The original is more of a yellow. It's still kind of like that khaki color, but it's less green and more yellow. And other than that, it looks exactly the same color as a chickpea. And if you just if you've ever had a chickpea before and you smashed it, that's exactly what it would look like. Now, the only clarification that we should make at this point, since we're talking about hummus, is the very little known difference between garbanzo beans and chickpeas. You guys know what this is?
No, probably do not.
Man. It's either a dirty joke or some fast fact that no one gives a rat's ass about.
The difference
I'm going with the fast fact.
The difference is I've never asked to have a garbanzo bean in my mouth.
Okay, I was right. I nailed it.
I'm surprised you guys didn't know. I mean, Tori, you knew that was a setup in a heartbeat.
Of course.
On the crude jokes that Adam says. But, Eric, I'm surprised you didn't pick up on that. I'm pretty sure you've heard me say that joke, possibly on the podcast before. No?
I'm not. That's a new one to me.
Yeah, never asked to have a garbanzo bean on me. So
that's hilarious.
Thank you. I can tell by the way that you guys both laughed vigorously.
Oh, we enjoyed it so much, yes.
I had to cut out 23 minutes of you guys laughing hysterically.
Couldn't catch my breath, really.
Before you finally calmed down. So yeah, okay, with all that being said, I think it's time for us to move on to our initial tasting notes. Let's start off with the original, and let's just kind of do a little roundtable here. Eric, do you want to lead us off with the original?
Sure. It is... I've had hummus many a time, so... and I quite like it. But it's refreshing. It's, it tastes a little bit like, I just say it certainly has that consistency of smashed bean, okay? So it has a bit of a mouthy feel, a little bit of particles to it.
Mouthy.
I taste a hint of lemon.
Yes.
A little bit of citrus going on there. I imagine it's lemon. I think that's pretty much the classic recipe calls for. And, real mild flavor. It doesn't even really have any salt or pepper to it, really, and that's noticeable. I think it might have a little bit of salt in it. I'm sure it does.
I don't think there's any pepper, but I do think there's some salt.
I think you can, I think some people might salt and pepper or add, if you're making it yourself, make it a little bit more seasoned, but it's very tame flavor, I would say. Very
I personally, I
light.
agree. I like how it's also kind of creamy. I don't know if you mentioned that. It has a subtle flavor, but there is a bit of a nutty kind of flavor there. And it's some of that, like you said, I know there is a little bit of sourness, a little bitterness from, like you said, really like a lemon juice or something like that.
Yeah, a little citrus going on.
Which I enjoy. And I find it to be a well-balanced food, and I really like to throw it on some other stuff, particularly if you get like a spicy piece of meat, or even just mix it in with some like bulgur rice or something like that. You know, I find that it's a like delightful contrast to that.
Oh, I like it on tortilla chips a lot too, which adds more salt.
Now, I'm curious about this. Do you prefer it to be served cold, room temperature, or hot?
Wow, I don't think I've ever had hot hummus.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know if a lot of places like heat it up, but I think that a lot of places will like serve it on a hot plate with hot food.
That's true.
And it does get kind of warmed up on its own right by that.
Yeah, I suppose I prefer it more room temperature. I think maybe I get more flavor out of it. If it's cold, it doesn't, cold can sometimes mute flavors a little bit.
Yeah.
So I like it. I prefer it more room temperature. I bought it and I put it in the fridge and I realized I don't really need to refrigerate this. You guys are coming here. I bought it right before we started the podcast. So I just left it on the table. I said, it doesn't need to be refrigerated.
I agree. I think I prefer them like at room temperature or slightly above room temperature. And I think that part of that is not necessarily even the mouth taste, but I do think that it like releases some of those aromatics and like the volatile compounds in there into your nose, where I think is where you get a lot of that taste from.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts. All right, Tori, shit on it now.
I'm gonna try to be as objective as possible, at least for a little bit. And yeah, I mean, I think he's right. There's certainly some lemon. I didn't get any of that pepper. No pepper.
I said there was no pepper.
I don't think recipes for hummus even include pepper, so I think that was just a fabrication on Eric's behalf.
Okay, that I ran with.
I said it did not have any.
Yeah,
pepper
we all
taste.
agreed that it did not have pepper, so we are in agreement.
Well, darn it, there's none in there.
In case you were looking for like a little bit of spice, I've seen people do it after the fact, which I think is kind of strange. But
yeah, I don't particularly care for this original hummus. This is probably my least favorite out of the bunch. It feels like it's halfway, like a halfway hummus, and that may be just hummus in general. But I don't know, man. It feels like it's like background noise to something else in the taste realm. Like I'm waiting for something else, something more than that. It's I find it bland, and if like the saturation level maybe is a good word to use. It's cranked way down, and it's like sickening to me. I don't know, and the texture I'm not down with either. It's like creamy sand. That's I don't know. Yeah. So there you go. I shat on it for you.
I mean, personally, I think you are correct. I do think that like hummus in general is. Why are you shaking your head, Eric?
No, I'm in agreement. Fully agreement. Yeah, it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be.
Yeah, I was just thinking about
flavorful.
Now that you mention it, like we should like clarify to listeners. If you sit down and like eat hummus with a spoon, you are like a clinical sociopath. So like that's bizarre. Now Eric did open the package and licked it off the plastic lid like a dog, and then also sucked it off the spoons when he pulled it down. I don't know why you do that. You're not wasting any. And
I think it tastes fine. I'd eat it by the spoonful.
The amount of hummus you're getting off, the amount of anything that you open out of the packaging, the amount that you're getting off the plastic, the amount that you're like saving so it doesn't go to waste is outweighed by an order of magnitude by how fucking vile it looks when you do that. Like, never do that in front of anyone. That would just be very clear.
Yeah, that's an at-home kind of thing. Yeah, that's at-home trusted friends. I don't care what they think.
If you
obviously. Yeah, that is.
It's not something you do on date night or something like that.
No, well, I'm afraid that you're going to do it on accident one of these days, just out of habit.
Yeah, don't do it at the board game thing.
Although we've talked about this before, there might be some women that are into that. If they see you slobbing down on a fucking piece of plastic, they might be like, boy knows how to work his liquor. I don't know.
Goodness.
You never know. So
now all I can think of is.
Let's not
talk about that. let's bleep that out.
Oh wow! There's a handle for you.
That was a story. We're not going to go into.
We're not going to go into
refresh my memory on that one.
The whole thing is talking about the roasted red pepper hummus now. Eric, do you want to lead us off with your thoughts on that?
I think you did a really good job, Adam, of describing the subtle difference between the classic and the roasted red pepper. Yeah, I think it's you take regular hummus and you add roasted red pepper to it. It gives it a nice zing of flavor. There's no heat at all. It looks spicy, but it's not.
Yeah.
It still has that kind of like citrusy note to it, I would still say, but I think the pepper adds a little sweetness to it. And yeah, I don't know if you ever had roasted red peppers. I think it pretty much it harkens to that flavoring without being overpowering. So it's well mixed. The only other thing I was going to say is that there's another brand. I don't know what the brand is. I tend to buy, I think maybe Sabra.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they have roasted red peppers and oil sitting in the middle of it.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I was about to say.
And you have to mix it yourself.
You don't have to mix it. I mean, that's it. I mean, it's already in there too. I think they just put a little extra on top because it adds in the presentation. And personally, that's what I was about to say, that I really like hummus. I prefer it to have like a base flavor blended and then also to have that like drizzle on top so I can get like some variation in my scoop. Yeah, I like that a lot, both from a visual presentation standpoint and from a taste perspective. So I would say like Aldi's does have decent hummus, but I definitely prefer the appearance of that Sabra.
I prefer the appearance of the Sabra, but I have definitely overdone it. Like I just dove right into that middle with like a chip or a bit of bread and just had like roasted red pepper, overwhelming flavor. Then the rest of it tastes very bland because I just went in like a greedy person right to the middle. So having this like pre-blended for me, I wasn't sure I was going to like it as much. And I swear I've had this before, at least at a party or something. Anyways, I thought they did a really good job blending it. I think it has a nice flavor throughout. I think it's not particularly like, unmixed. I know you said there was like some spot that you came across that wasn't homogenized in like color.
No, it is. I can see if you look at it very closely, you can, like, if you got a jeweler's loop out, you can see little white dots in there where there's just little microscopic fibrous pieces of the chickpeas that didn't get completely pureed. That's all.
Sure, gotcha.
You're not chomping away on them,
in your tight teeth.
There's particles.
One single spoonful of hummus can keep Eric entertained for 23 minutes.
I'm getting there. That garlic roast, the garlic one, I was chewing for a while, and I'm not sure if it was the skins from the garlic or skins from the...
You think they're putting garlic skin in this?
Or if it was the skin from the chickpea. So I don't know which one it was.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a fucking chickpea skin, if anything, you dolt.
When you mash up garlic, it has a fibrousness to it.
They're not throwing garlic skins in here, Eric. They're not.
I just mean the outside part of the skin, of the garlic. After you take off the hard part, there's still like that like clear, translucent skin. Okay, maybe I'm crazy. Adam's giving me the crazy look.
Anyways, for me, if I'm eating a hummus plain on its own or like just dipping in some veggies in it, which is a thing I like to do for a tasty low-calorie snack, dip some carrots in there. I generally prefer the roasted red pepper, or if I'm going to have it on like a pita chip, which is also another great way to eat it, I prefer generally the roasted red pepper. That is like my preferred one to eat on its own. I don't, like I said, the original is almost a little bit too bland to have without the addition of something with more flavor to it, particularly if you get like a nice well-seasoned piece of meat to go with it. But yeah, I think other than that, you nailed it on there. It's the original with the addition of some roasted red pepper, which has a subtle, sweet, mild, and I think delightful flavor, kind of akin to, like a paprika almost taste, which is I'm a big fan of. So, Tori, do you have anything to add on that?
Let me bolt on a couple of bitches and moans. No. I thought he did a really good job of explaining it, to be very, very honest with you. I mean, yeah, it still maintains that texture that I'm not down with, and I don't like chickpeas, man. So, I mean, this is a tough sell for me from beginning to end. Not unless you put like maybe chocolate syrup in it or something.
I think there are in fact sweet hummuses.
I think so. I think there's a dessert version. I think I've...
Now that I'm on the other side of the fence about, I could not be interested in that. So
I don't know.
Do you like baked beans, Tori? Or
no? Ooh, no.
You don't do beans.
He's not a beanie boy. We've talked about this before.
For some reason I thought you liked baked beans.
No, he's not a lover of beans. No, he's not a lover of beans in the chili either, any of that stuff.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, just to give you an idea, I only just started eating refried beans at Mexican places like maybe a year ago.
I think refried beans are
very similar in texture.
Texture-wise, they're extremely similar to hummus. Taste-wise, not as much.
Sure.
But they could be made to be close. A lot of the flavor in the refried beans is also coming from seasonings. So.
For sure.
But yeah, to wrap it up, I thought he did a very nice job on his own right. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't do it, but the addition of the pepper is nice, I guess. It's certainly a step up from the original. It's So there you have it.
A little more exciting, that's for sure.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's a little bit more exciting.
Now, here's a fun fact about chickpeas, now that we're halfway through the tasting. You can actually, and this is not a joke, I know Eric's grinning already, he thinks this is not a joke, and it's not. you can actually use the water from chickpeas, like when you strain them out, strain a can, you can use that juice as like an egg substitute in recipes if you want to go for like a vegan product. And you can actually even like whip it into like an egg white / meringue type thing. There's a couple of different like products you can make with aquafaba, I believe is what it's called, which basically just means bean water. So
that's fascinating. Very cool.
Yeah. A little fun fact. Nothing I've ever done, just something I learned and was like, oh, neat. I'll never use that. Someone that actively avoids vegan food. So
you actively avoid bean foods?
Vegan foods.
Vegan foods. Oh,
yeah, I am a lover of the meat and animal products. So yeah, I generally assume that if it's vegan, I'm probably not going to like it as much. Which, holds up sometimes. Those Impossible Burgers and stuff like that we've talked about, those are fine. Those actually sometimes have a quite pleasant texture, I think, to them. So let's move on now to the roasted garlic hummus. Do you want to lead us off with that, Eric?
Sure. The roasted garlic was, as I already said, had a little bit more of a mouthfeel to it. I'm not sure what I was getting, if I was actually getting chunks of roasted garlic, which again, that Sabra one, if you go with that other brand, has a nice little divot in the middle of actual minced garlic, which I am a huge fan of. I love garlic. I will happily eat just garlic, by the way.
Everyone likes garlic.
Yeah, peeled eat garlic cloves just straight out of a bowl, no problem.
Ew.
Delicious.
That's gross.
That's fucking weird. Yeah,
that's up there with eating green onions or
eating green onions is
green onions
fine.
with a little bit of salt on the plate, as one of our other friends likes to do. So
yeah, Kirsten, who's previously been on the show, so we can say her name. But yeah, that's
her friend.
Yeah, a friend,
another friend of the show.
Who shall remain anonymous. Yeah, for me personally, I like this one a lot. This was probably my favorite or second favorite. I think it was probably tied with the roasted red pepper. The only weird thing I had about this one is, due to the mix of the texture and flavor, there was one comparison I could not get out of my mind, because it felt exactly like I was eating lukewarm instant mashed potatoes with garlic.
Exactly. Yep. Dude, I had that one loaded up and ready to go.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
I think that's funny that we both landed on that exact same thing, because that's exactly what it, like, whatever synthetic garlic flavor they're using in this is the exact same one they use in the, like, Idaho brand, pre-flavored instant mashed potato packets. But that was my only thought, was I'm like, this one's a little odd because of that reason. But what about you, Tori? Anything to add other than that?
Undoubtedly, yeah.
From you?
Yeah, I was about to say, it sits on the plate here. It looks like instant mashed potatoes sitting on a plate. Yeah, it looks that way.
The texture's right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, texture is right. It's not hot, I guess, would be the only big draw from that. Yeah, I mean, that was loaded up. I had it ready to go. I had the hammer back, and you stole it from me. But yeah, honest to goodness, that's unquestionably what I was going to say. It looks, it tastes, it's garlic mashed potatoes.
And yet,
and I can safely say I've never had instant garlic mashed potatoes.
Oh, really?
In fact, I've hardly ever had
instant mashed potatoes.
Instant mashed potatoes.
You ever get mashed potatoes like KFC or nothing like that?
A KFC I've occasionally had. I mean, I've had instant mashed potatoes occasionally.
Okay.
I don't care for them. My mom never made them, right? Yeah, and I've never seen a flavored version of them. That's for sure. I'm saying I've never seen a garlic flavored instant mashed potato.
Oh, they have all sorts of flavors.
Yeah.
Fun fact: I used to beg my mom when she was making mashed potatoes. I used to beg her to make the instant ones instead of the regular ones.
That's weird.
I loved and still to this day love instant mashed potatoes.
Oh wow!
I would almost rather have them over regular mashed potatoes still.
Is that so?
Now, to be fair, I don't think my mom made the best mashed potatoes. Like, I do think that I can make a better mashed potato, and if I really put some effort into it, I think I can make a really damn good mashed potato that I do prefer over, like, the instant ones. But I'll be honest, for the effort involved, especially if I'm doing, like, a meal prep type thing where I'm just going to throw it all in Tupperware and reheat it throughout the week, generally speaking, I'm going to opt for the instants.
Huh.
Yep.
Huh. Ain't that something?
And they're actually not super unhealthy for you. They're actually pretty, because of the high amount of water that they absorb in there, they're actually a relatively low calorie food. They make you feel very full. So,
I mean, essentially, it's just like dehydrated and then flaked potatoes.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. It's really not like that different, except the fact that you just get a very homogenized texture out of them that many mashed potatoes sometimes have like a I prefer those almost like half mashed. Those ones like you get at a restaurant.
Too. I like those. I do like those. Like I know a good mashed potato, but part of it is like there is almost like a different flavor somehow to me as well, and that's part of what I like. It's not just the texture thing.
Huh.
Yeah, I almost have a hard time describing it, but I do really like an instant mashed potato.
Ain't that something?
Now, like a good steakhouse mashed potato is also phenomenal, but part of that is because it's like 50-50 butter.
True.
So which it's hard to go wrong with.
Yeah, exactly.
But okay, well, now we've established that about the instant mashed potatoes. Let's move on to the last one here.
Yeah,
tonight,
we're learning a lot about you out here.
which is the cilantro and jalapeno one. Now, Eric, I know you. I was a little bit upset because you colored my judgment in advance on this one by saying that this was your least favorite and you didn't like it, and so then I kind of went at it with a much more hesitant tasting. But with all that being said, now that the listeners know that we were predisposed to whatever your thoughts were, why don't you lead us off of that?
You know what? It's interesting because in my mind, I hate it more than I actually hate it now on my plate. Like, I came in with a very negative thought towards it, and I used to really hate cilantro. And it has a very much, like you said, like you can see the cilantro chunks in it. It has cilantro. It has that flavor. And if you're one of those people who thinks it tastes like soap, you might be a little bit turned off from this. But if you're someone who likes cilantro, I think you're going to enjoy this. It has a very subtle hint of jalapeno. I don't think it's really, I wouldn't give it a heat level rating at all.
Yeah, I don't think it needs it either, but I did get a little piece caught in the back of my throat, and it did burn a little bit.
Okay.
It fizzled out pretty quick, but...
So there certainly is that flavor and a little bit of probably even pieces of jalapeno chopped up inside it. Very small.
There is dark green pieces in there, but I think that's all cilantro, so it makes me wonder how... I'm curious as to the inclusion of the jalapeno, what form it was added in, and what processing they did.
I think... hearkening back to something Adam said, which I've never tried before, but putting hummus on a piece of meat, which I think is obviously a very traditional thing to do.
Oh, it's very good.
Like a kebab or a spicy piece.
Throw it on a piece of naan, some hummus, piece of meat, a little bit of lettuce and shit,
And I see this
very
maybe being better than all of them to be mixed with meat.
Interesting.
That's an interesting take, E.
But, I mean, by itself, it's my least favorite still, probably by itself. But I can see where they're coming with these flavors. It brings a bright freshness to it with the cilantro. If you're, like I said, into cilantro, it's okay. It's green. I don't know what you feel about eating green food.
The green doesn't turn
healthy. It's healthy, E.
No, it's like green mush.
The green doesn't turn me off. I do think I like the flavor on this one least. It's not bad. I probably wouldn't have a great use for it if I went out to a restaurant or something like that. I don't know. I might put this one on a meat or something like that, like maybe on a good piece of like salty beef or something. It might be pretty good.
Salty beef? I was even thinking maybe like pulled pork, even just like a little bit of shredded pork, just like
maybe. I was almost thinking.
Ugh.
I don't know, because I'm a really big fan of.
I don't know about
roasting
that,
you
bro.
out. I don't know.
Yeah. Ugh.
I'm a really big fan of chimichurri, like a massive fan of chimichurri, and I think it's like several steps maybe away, but
Yeah,
roughly
it's
adjacent to that.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't think I know I've had chimichurri before, but it's not something I regularly order, so I'd have to try again.
Any opportunity to get chimichurri, I am like, please give me a bowl of it.
It's like a green. What is it again?
It's like chopped herbs and garlic and stuff.
Herbs and garlic, and it
in
is
oil.
a little bit of spice too, isn't it?
There's usually a little spice to it.
So
A hair.
just a hair, but it's more of a Mexican dish, where this is more of your
I don't
Middle Eastern.
know if it's necessarily Mexican. I would say like South American, Central and South American. Yeah.
Okay,
Interesting.
Famous staple of like those Argentinian steakhouse, the churrascaria.
I think maybe we should try and get that on the show.
Wow,
we should try that out.
I'll
one.
sneak into Texas Day Brazil and just take out the like keg of it,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Go for
walk
it.
out with a stainless steel vat of it.
If you need someone to distract and say stupid things,
doesn't-
you got me.
It doesn't last.
You got E.
It doesn't last super long. That's the only downside about it. But yeah, as far as this last one, like I said, to me it was kind of chunky. Didn't really care for it. Not a huge jalapenos I'm picky about, and this was not one that I liked. And I think it's got an aggressive amount of cilantro in it. All in all, it was okay. Not my favorite. Tori?
I thought it was the freshest tasting one out of the bunch. And I'm no hummus master like you guys are apparently, but you guys mentioned something interesting that with an extra little bit of oil. I think this particular one would benefit with a little drizzle of oil, probably more so than the other three. That's just a little thought I had there. But yeah, man, it tasted bright. I thought it tasted, the freshest out of the bunch. If you close your eyes and think about what green tastes like without the help of illicit substances, I think this is pretty much it. I think you're tasting the color green, man. So, but yeah, Oddly enough, this was my favorite out of the bunch.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm flipping the script on you there, fellas. But yeah, same deal. I with you, I feel as if they waved the jalapeno over the bowl as they were stirring in the chickpeas and neglected to add the jalapeno because I'm sensitive to the heat thing. I didn't get much of it.
Not even the flavoring. You didn't get a hint of jalapeno.
I mean, just enough. I mean, I wasn't,
So not the heat level. I consider those two aspects of habaneros, jalapenos
There you
to
go.
be. There's a heat level to it, and then there's also the flavor of jalapeno.
Right.
You associate that as one in your mind.
Pretty much, yeah. I guess I never thought about it in that dimension, but yeah, dog. Yeah. So I didn't get much of the jalapeno. Not that I'm that upset about it, but yeah, heavy cilantro. But yeah, it was my favorite one out of the bunch, which isn't saying a whole lot. But there you go, my dude.
I actually thought the original tasted the freshest to me, to be quite honest. I think that was the prevalence of the lemon juice and stuff coming out over the other ingredients. But I looked on the website really quick, and as Aldi is famous for doing, they run a very tight, efficient ship, and their website is much in the same vein. They list the product, they list the bare minimum amount of information you need about it, and that's it. So we don't need to dwell on that. And with that being said, it's time for Eric's favorite segment of the show, the ingredients.
Alrighty. And so we're going to have, obviously, 4 different ones we're going to run through here.
So that'll be fun.
And I'm not quite sure how they break it up on the back of this. It actually looks like they don't break it up, so this will be even more entertaining.
One and done.
Yeah. So, as we discussed about hummus in depth here, before we even got to the ingredients, yes, it's garbanzo beans and tahini, and then oil, water, and then the cilantro is in the cilantro one, I imagine, the red bell peppers in the red bell pepper one, garlic is in the garlic, jalapeno peppers is back to the cilantro jalapeno, salt, parsley, citric acid, roasted garlic, more roasted garlic. That's weird that they even list them multiple times on the back here. Yep, so this is very strange.
So no lemon juice, just citric acid?
Natural bell pepper flavor, sunflower blend. Wait, I must have missed it. There it is. Roasted garlic powder, lemon juice concentrate,
Okay.
potassium sorbate, spices, acid blend, which is
Acid blend?
acid
Ooh.
blend, phosphoric
That
acid.
explains the colors moving on their own in the,
Tasting of
hummus.
green.
Yeah, it's phosphoric and acetic, acetic, A-C-E-T-I-C, acetic,
Acetic?
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
vinegar. Acetic
Well,
acid.
acetic acid. is-
I think acetum or something like that is Latin for vinegar.
Gotcha. Sodium benzate and malic acid, or malice. I guess we
I think it's probably malic, yeah.
yeah. So that's very strange that they don't break it up, but
Cool.
there
That
is
weird, but I guess probably it's all in the same package, so I guess that's fair to do.
Did I say there was? I did say there was like sunflower oil, didn't I? Yeah, soybean oil. So yeah, I mean, when we were talking about oil, Tori, all of them have oil in them to help them get to that consistency.
Well, we
Okay.
talked
Obviously,
about
if
that.
it was just smashed, if the original classic was just smashed chickpeas, you'd never achieve this kind of that kind of a creamy texture.
It's like we've said before with tomato sauce, you need that oil in there to have the emulsion.
Right.
So
Gotcha.
yeah, that's what.
I don't know if you just said how you thought that
How could you be so
cilantro-
fucking stupid, Tori?
That's not where I'm going with at all. But
I was under the impression that you could put extra oil on your hummus,
Yes.
and in a lot of cases
Absolutely.
you do.
So, yeah,
Absolutely.
you
That's
were
where I
saying-
thought it would be handier on
Handier.
that
I don't
one.
know why Eric's arguing with you on this. I thought
wasn't
what you said
arguing.
made perfect sense, Tori.
Okay.
Yeah, I understood
So
that.
I'm-
He's
100%.
gaslighting me again.
I'm not
Yes.
gaslighting you. I was
Yes,
just-
you are.
I don't know if you knew
So-
this, Tori, but there's already oil in it, you fucking moron.
And then I would venture to say, even though it doesn't have it listed in order,
Even though
that
there's
there
no
is
oil in it.
more oil already in the cilantro,
Why would you argue that?
just because it seems like it's runnier than all the other ones.
Huh.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I thought it seemed like it had a
You might be right.
a
I don't know
runnier
if that's
texture,
due to the presence of
Interesting.
oil.
or if it's the cilantro.
There's a
and the
lot
jalapeno.
of vegetable matter in that one, more so than I think there is in the rest of these. So I would be thinking it's probably more from that.
More from the water. Okay, more water content.
Cilantro has a lot of water in it. You
It
know,
does,
when you
it
put
does.
that much cilantro in there, it's gonna loosen things up a bit.
Gotcha.
So-
That makes sense. But I just wanted to clarify that it was looser than the other 3 already.
I think it
but
is.
adding more oil is great. Yeah, that's certainly a possibility you can do.
Nice. Thank you, E.
I just made that way more complicated than it needed to be. Right?
Not you.
As
You
usual.
never do that.
Yes,
No, you never
absolutely
do
did.
that, E.
Okay.
All right. Well, with all that being said, now it's time for us to get on to the ratings portion of the show. And I think this is another one that we're going to have to rate as a kit, as a whole, you know. So hopefully we'll get away from doing this type of thing soon so we can get back to normal ratings again. But,
Yeah, E.
yeah, E, you dumb fuck.
Should have just brought one tub.
You did.
And eat it with a spoon after we leave.
Somehow, like, I'm not really mad about this, but you do find ways to make me mad that are constantly shocking to me. Like, it is one of your, like, best skills, and I think you generally do it unintentionally, but, like, this is one where I'm like, okay, I guess if we're going to do 4, I feel like that's going to make it unnecessarily complicated, but okay. But let's go ahead, and then part of it is that, like, some of these I would definitely rate higher than the other ones. So,
Right, yeah. And actually, like, I went to the store, too, and I grabbed the classic, and I grabbed the roasted garlic, and I was, like, walking away, and I was, like, and I was confused because they were the non-GMO, like, you know, healthy version. I was paying way more for them than I needed to, and I was like, wait a second. Well, so I went back and looked at it again, and I saw the 4 one, and I said, well, if I'm buying 2, I might as well just get all 4. In my mind, it made sense at the time. It wasn't until after I was through the checkout that I was like, maybe I should. But my thought was still that we only had to do 1 or 2 out of the 4.
Yeah, you did say that at first, which makes it a strange choice to get a quartet, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, Tori, I think you were the most open about your feelings on this, so why don't you go ahead and give us your rating for this, all 4 of this quartet as a whole.
Yeah, see, and this is tough, because even if I am trying to be as objective as possible, I don't eat it all that often. You know, I pretty much made the decision that I don't like it, so I don't seek it out. You know, I don't try it. I have nothing to compare it to. So that makes it troubling. So with that in mind and trying to be as objective, well, sort of, as I can, honest to goodness, I was going to give the 3 out of the 4 a 3, and I was going to give the cilantro jalapeno a 4. So with all that being said, I think maybe 3 1/4 is where I'm going to land for the quartet, for the foursome.
Okay.
Sounds fair.
Yeah, for me personally, this is another tricky one too, because hummus is not a particularly flavorful food. So it's hard to give it like a taste rating when there's kind of like not a distinct presence of taste to begin with. And for me, I do like hummus, and I thought this was decent. I do prefer other hummuses. I think the Sabre that you can get, or Sabra, whatever it is, has a better presentation in the package. I mean, the flavor is very comparable, but I like that, you know, kind of semi-mixed thing they have going on better. So I think that's a better example. And I like restaurant preparations where they do typically put like some more ingredients and some oil, and they serve it on with some other things. And hummus is better with other things. I mean, that's just the way it is, in my opinion. That being said, as an Aldi thing, do you remember what you paid for this here?
$4.19, I think.
So you're paying $1 per portion on this, which I think is very reasonable.
That doesn't sound bad.
No, yeah, it's very reasonable. I mean, the whole container is 20 ounces, so each one is basically 5 ounces of...
Yeah, so a little under a cup. And that's about what it looks like. It makes sense. And like I said, to me, it's a good little party thing. It's fine. It's your like standard. No one's going to complain about this. If they like hummus, it's going to be fine. And I've had all these hummus before in other containers to use on things. And again, it's fine. And I think that this is like, you know, perfectly on nominal. So I'm going to give it a 5. It's not a bad rating. It's dead on nominal.
Yep. And I pretty much agree with everything you said there, Adam, about how it's better with food. And yes, I think other brands do this better, and a restaurant presentation is going to be way better. So yeah, I think I was going to give it a 6. I was thinking like 6, 7. So maybe, yeah, I was going to go with 6 though.
All right.
It's okay. It's not great. I think that, restaurants have done it better. It has maybe, I don't know, just a little bit that could be improved, a little bit of more zing, a little more spices added to it. I don't know, maybe a little dash of actual paprika over the roasted.
Paprika.
So, you know, I think it has room for improvement, but like you said, for the ease and the cost, it nails it. The ease. As I ran there real quick before you guys came over here. Had to think of something.
You did cut it pretty darn close. Cool. Well, I think that's going to do it for us this week for the Aldi's, Aldi, what was it called? Park West Street brand?
Park Street Deli.
I thought it was Bark Street, like as in what a dog does.
Oh, as in Bark's Root Beer, who's one of our sponsors. We're still waiting on those checks to show up, by the way, Barks. Yeah, I think that's going to do it for us this week on the Park Street Deli, brought to you by Aldi. Quartet of hummuses. Hummi.
Is that how that's...
Hummy.
Multiple hummus?
Humactipities.
Hummuses.
Yeah, so I guess that was... glad we got to do something a little bit different than our standard fare, so that was nice, at least. With all that being said, Eric,
some closing thoughts?
Do you have any closing thoughts you'd like to share with the listeners this week?
Yeah. So just coming from being a guest at someone else's house there, and
I thought you were going to say a guest on someone else's podcast. If that was the way you revealed being on someone else's podcast, I would murder you right now. Like Eric goes away from us to be on someone else's podcast, I would kill him.
That's a new and interesting way he can piss you off,
right? I'll have to bank that one for future use.
He misses
fun and exciting new ways to piss Adam off.
Yeah, he misses our podcast with no notice to go be on someone else's podcast. I'd let all the air out of his tires. Yeah. And then he'd flip on the highway and go ee, and then crash.
Go ee all the way home.
What were you gonna say, Eric?
I was gonna say my mom has given some sage advice about guests. She says they're a lot like fish. After 3 days, they start to stink. So maybe you should limit your vacation time to a more appropriate level of staying at someone else's house, or at least be mindful of that. So.
And so just for context,
I stayed too long. Yes, that's
okay.
I stayed too long.
Wait, you stayed too long at your mom's house?
At my brother's house.
Your mom said that you had stayed too long at your brother's house.
Yes. She says that remark is pretty universally applied. She says guests are like fish. They tend to stink after a few days.
Wow.
I think it's wise advice.
Sage advice, yeah. Don't wear out your welcome.
Yeah,
there's a parable for you.
I mean, right. I do think there's some wisdom there, and I have to temper this because I feel like if you have a large house where you can easily entertain people, and especially if you don't feel like you need to do everything together, because some people feel like if they have guests, they need to be constantly
right
doing activities with them. Whereas if you can just have guests and have them come out and hang out and do their own thing, and you've provided adequate accommodations for them, and you have a bigger house and there's stuff to do what they can go do on their own. If you live in a giant cabin out in the woods and people can go do their own things, yeah, I think that works a little better. But if you do have to constantly be entertaining someone or getting them food, yeah, I could see that getting old fast.
Right. So, which my brother has a smaller house than my own, and he has a whole family in there. So
wow, your brother does host a lot of get-togethers for having a wife and kids in a smaller house than you do. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it is surprising. So
your brother, who's also named Adam,
yes,
right.
You've had a lot of experience agitating Adams throughout the years,
without a doubt.
Oh, hilarious!
Cool. All right. And now it's time for Touching Thoughts with Tori.
Oh boy, I love that intro, and I may or may not do that intro. I may or may not do that intro justice because it's going to be a quick one today, and I'm just going to let you know it doesn't have to be perfect to be pleasant. It doesn't have to be perfect to be good, and it doesn't have to be perfect to be enjoyable. Whatever that is, because perfection's sort of tough to come by if you haven't already given it a swing. So, hey, and I know we talked about it, 80-20, the good, it rings again and again. But, yeah, if you're a dummy like me and can't remember the details of the 80-20, hey, it don't gotta be perfect to be pleasant, my man. And that'll do it for me. And we love having you here. And thank you so much. And that'll do it.
Yep, and I would say on that note, if listeners listen to that and they want more information, feel free to Google the 80-20 principle or the Pareto principle, Pareto, to get a little more information on that. Might get something that might, I'm not going to say change your life, that's too fucking cheesy, but might help you make some changes in your life.
It might get you, geared in the right direction, moving.
A better perspective on accomplishments.
Yeah.
So, with all that being said, thank you guys so much for listening yet again, and we'll catch you next week.
Oh no, it's the end of the show. Thank goodness there's several other episodes waiting just for you. Check out our Instagram. We like to have some fun over there. We post the sauce bottle pics if you're curious, and the occasional meme. That's going to be Sauce Spoken official. Despite our humble nature, we are accepting donations, believe it or not. Look us up on PayPal. That's going to be at Sauce Spoken. Hey, and if you like what you hear, grease those palms, babe. Lastly, roll up your sleeves and get into the nitty-gritty at saucespoken.wordpress.com. We have show notes and details. Check it out. Share us with a family member or a friend. If you're enjoying it, I'm certain they will too. Good night.